Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's version of the Hardwoodnation's Flagrant 2 NBA podcast with myself, C.L. Anthony, editor in chief of the Hardwood Nation, and my little white homie, Bryce Ward. What's going on, Bryce?
Much, how you doing, man?
Man, look, here we are. We had a month off, and already we have a trade announcement this morning. How do you feel about the Los Angeles Lakers acquiring Dennis Schroeder?
I think it's a great acquisition for him. The kind of maybe small touch up you need. The problem is, gave up Avery Bradley and Rondo to get him. Which Avery Bradley, they proved they were able to still pull off a championship in the final rounds without him and everything. But the Rondo one kind of bothers me a little bit because I like seeing him there helping the team off or helping the team win, some of those more crucial moments. So I don't know. It's like
Well,
interesting to try to do that, and I think it's a great move. I just hate to see Rondo go.
Well, they didn't trade Rondo and they didn't trade Bradley. They think they're going to lose those guys in free agency, so that's why they brought Schroeder over as an insurance policy. So they might have heard whispers that Rondo's going to leave and that Bradley's going to leave. So you bring in Schroeder, who, as you mentioned earlier, can play deep minutes. He doesn't have to be on a minutes restriction. Also, the Lakers are in win now mode. They're defending champions, so they really don't need the draft picks right now. So they've given up their two first round draft picks this year to the Thunder, and we know the Thunder is a rebuilding franchise. So it's good for both teams. Long term, good for the Thunder. Right now, good for the Lakers. Um, Speaking of the Thunder, what have you heard about Chris Paul? Because it looks like he's going to be on his way out soon.
I guess the only solid rumor so far is that possibly Phoenix, which instantly makes Phoenix seem pretty lethal because they came out. I mean, they probably should have been in the playoffs. I mean, they were undefeated in the bubble, so they're gonna go into next season, with confidence. Uh, Booker is a star, so I think having that steadiness there with Chris Paul, but also like after seeing the year he had in OKC, how much he can still add to a team, I think it makes Phoenix pretty lethal from the start. So that would be really interesting, and I think Chris Paul fits perfectly there.
Yeah, the Thunder have given Chris Paul permission to work out a deal with the Suns, so that's why the Suns are considered the front runner right now. The first rumor is that the Los Angeles Lakers made calls, but for whatever reason, Chris Paul didn't want to go there. So now we have the Schroeder deal, which makes sense. So Chris has been talking with Phoenix. They're trying to make a framework of a deal. The only thing is, how much are the Suns going to give up for Chris Paul? We know they're a young team. We know they have a lot of pieces, but they can't give up too much for him. So that's going to be the biggest question. And also, when is it going to go down? Probably going to go down Wednesday night, draft night. So we'll see. But I think that's pretty much it's going to be a done deal as well. While we're talking about the draft, one rumor I've heard and something that we've talked about for a couple of years now is that the Orlando Magic are thinking about trading away Aaron Gordon to move up in the draft. So they're dangling his name out. How do you feel about AG's, forgive me, Orlando Magic's career and what can he do going forward, let's say with another franchise?
In terms of his career, I don't think with the Magic, there's nothing bad to say about the guy. He's always come in and brought the right attitude and effort, and I think tried his best. And anytime he's represented the Magic on a larger scale, whether it be the dunk competition or whatever, I think he's always done the franchise service. There's nothing bad to say about the guy. I just think at this point we kind of know what we're going to get out of him. And you know, maybe we're looking to change up the team dynamic some because I don't think the Magic are expecting to do any better next year with the team currently built. So AG picks to move seems like a smart play without trying to change up too much. It seems like we're missing like a real go-to scorer that can still shoot, that can create everything on his own. It looks like they're going, for still a young group. So who knows if they're going to even be done with AG or after the AG stuff. We'll still see if they try to make moves to change the team after that. But I think he's like probably one of the easier pieces to move. I guess has some upside. He can help some teams. So I think that's a clear, like that seems like the most viable option for the Magic to actually try to get something back.
Do you think?
See how high of a pick. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I'm not sure exactly how high the Magic are trying to go. I don't know who their target is, um,
I
but
haven't kept up with the draft. Like I know
yeah.
you haven't either.
No, I don't care about the draft. Look, as long as I know where LaMelo Ball goes, that's all I care about with the draft. That's just the old Heat person. I mean, we don't draft a lot of people. Wednesday night, I'll be surprised. So, um, do you think the ship has sailed on AG being a number one scoring option? Has the ship sailed on that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
okay.
I think so.
He is what he is.
Not a number one option.
Got it.
And to be, I don't think that's just easy to find either.
Hmm.
Not a lot of teams have that. So we tried, and I think he had a lot of upside, but it's just the consistency doesn't seem to be there. And at this point in his career, I feel like he would at least be flashing more glimpses of it than he has more consistently. It's just not there. He's an elite defender too. I love having him on the court for that as well. I'm not gonna miss losing. Like I'm not happy about losing him, but we have other talent that, if healthy, I feel like can kind of do the same thing. Like having
Hmm.
Isaac healthy. Uh, if he's on the court, I don't miss AG really, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah, the Magic did have a log jam in the front court with a lot of young players, and then Vooch still being there. So they had a log jam. So they had to move someone. Those young guys still aren't proven yet, but because of that, you don't want to give up on them so early. So it just made sense for Gordon to be the one to be the one to move. So we'll see where he lands. But if they don't complete a trade, we'll see how he responds. So that's the other side of it. You put his name out. So now, if you don't complete a trade, let's see how he responds on the court if he still has to be there. So that's another dynamic that we'll see. You'll see how tough this young man is. So far, he's proven to be a little tough. So we'll see if that can continue. Because I'm a fan of him. I'm just not a fan of him as a first option. He's probably more like a third option at this point. Um,
Absolutely.
Right. And then also, of course, the Magic has a decision to make with Evan Fournier, who's going to be a free agent this offseason. Vooch may be as well. I'm not sure, but I know Fournier is going to be a free agent this offseason. So we'll see what happens. What happens
I
there?
feel people act like they want to get rid of Fournier all the time. They have for a long time. But the
Hmm.
problem is with that, the Magic have limited shooting. That's always been a problem since the post Dwight Howard era. We don't have shooters. Okay, so why are you going to get rid of one of the only consistent 3-point shooters? You're not. You're not going to get rid of Fournier.
Right.
So Aaron seems like, and Vooch is our number one option.
Hmm.
I don't, but so AG just seems like the clear choice. But I hope he handles it well if the trade doesn't go through. Like you said, he seems to be a high character dude. Maybe he has a breakout year because
Right.
I doubt it. But you never know how guys respond. Now I want to ask you real quick. Did you see? I saw the other day because I know Indiana. There's a lot of rumors circling Indiana as well. Uh, Apparently, people were saying Oladipo's just openly all season just talked about how he wants to play for a different team and things like that. Like, what does that tell you? Like, would you be interested in Oladipo if like that is how he's handled the situation? Like, he clearly has talent, but do you want something like that on the team if he never happy? It seems like.
That's been the biggest question. Even in the bubble, it's been the biggest question because there's been rumors about Oladipo wanting out of Indiana for half of the season. Now, the good thing is he actually came out a couple of days ago and said that he's committed to the Pacers. I guess it was so much noise about him wanting out that he had to come out and say, "Yeah, I want to be here." Well, you got to prove it on the court. Let's see what kind of season that you have because they're not going to move him right now. Yeah, I don't remember if he's going to be a free agent or not. He may be. If it's a trade, they're definitely not going to move him right now. So he's just going to have to suck it up. Um, but it goes to show that I guess you shouldn't be so vocal with your desire to leave because the people that was reporting this said that, like you mentioned, players from opposing teams had mentioned that this is what he said. You can't do that. You can't trust all these other players in the league because they're gonna make you look bad when they can. So it was a bad look for him, but at least he tried to fix it this week and say that he's committed to Indiana, and they're not a bad team. I don't think they should have fired Nate McMillan, but we'll see what they can do going forward. So he could be pissed about that. Who knows? Um, but we'll see, what they do going forward. But yeah, he had to say something because it was too much noise surrounding his future. It was too much. It was crazy. Um, Good question though. Thank you. So
It's curious.
I had to kind of change up our lineup this morning because I wasn't expecting that Laker trade, but there was another Laker rumor floating out there about DeMar DeRozan possibly being linked to the Lakers. So I like the fact that the champs are trying to beef up a little bit because they know that this year is going to be more challenging, especially with the Warriors coming back. So they have to get better. So they are being proactive. So I like that. What do you think about a possible DeMar LeBron team up in Los Angeles?
Um, it, it's it's interesting. I've never been like earlier on. I wasn't like a huge DeRozan fan. I always thought he reminded me of a light version of another player, Danny Granger. I
Hmm.
think when he's younger. Um, but I'm all about seeing what this LA team can do, and which is odd because I've never been an LA fan. But just I guess with the way the last 10 years in the league has went, I'm just kind of interested in seeing the dynamic of this LeBron LA regime, I guess. So if they get DeRozan on top of Schroeder, that team just looks really. It looks way deeper on. Well, I don't know. Avery Bradley was on the team, but he didn't play the Rondo thing too. So if he's gone, it seems like they upgraded in both positions or in both ways. But one thing we talked about before is, and I would think you'd be able to get him cheaper, is if you're going to get DeRozan, why not instead try to bring in Carmelo Anthony?
Mm.
Or depending on the pricing, which I'm not familiar with, the roster, the rosters right now, and like where their caps are at. But wouldn't you be able to get him a lot cheaper and basically kind of do the same thing?
You would, but I just think there's questions about whether or not Carmelo wants to come to Los Angeles. I mean, last season would have been a perfect season for him to get there. And I know him and LeBron are boys, but that might not translate so much on the basketball court. So I think that's what the apprehension is there. There was mutual interest for both sides, but I just don't think they feel like they can't play together. Even though they wouldn't be on the court a lot at the same time, because it doesn't. It's kind of a head scratcher of why Melo won't go to Los Angeles. His wife is an actress. She's in LA a lot. Come on, she's in between LA and New York. It just makes perfect sense for him to land there. But for whatever reason, he doesn't.
Yes.
It's not happening. So you would think it would be a marriage made in heaven, to be honest with you. But right now, the Lakers are looking at potentially giving up Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green for DeRozan, who can be a combination of both those guys. He's not as big as Kuzma, but shot making ability, playmaking ability, he's a combination of both those guys. So, hey, I just like the fact that the Lakers are swinging for the fence because they know what's coming their way because everyone else is going to get better and the Warriors are coming back. So I think the Lakers are kind of like, we have to improve right now.
But is he known for his 3-point shot? Because besides Danny Green being hit or miss, the Lakers desperately needed his 3-point shooting.
They
So
did.
it's like Sin does a lot of mid range and can do a lot of things, but I didn't know if he was like a profound 3-point shooter.
He's a streaky 3-point shooter, but everything else he does can outweigh what Danny Green gave you. So he's a a streaky 3-point shooter. And remember, the 3-point shooting performance that the Lakers gave in the finals wasn't their norm. They don't rely heavily on the three. They just don't. In the finals, it worked for whatever reason. It just worked, and they were able to utilize it and defeat the Heat. But that's not their game. They're not a 3-point shooting team, so they're used to players not being like dead eye 3-point shooters. So, like I said, I like what they're doing to get more aggressive. DeRozan would be the third option on that team, but he would be a very, very, very good third option. So, um, and let's see how he can perform without the pressure of being the first option. He didn't do that well, but now if as the third option, let's see how well he can do because he has first option talent. Does that make sense?
It sounds like the perfect situation for
Right,
him,
right. I like
especially
it.
where he's at in his career.
Right,
He's
right,
just getting older by this point.
right. He's
If
getting
he,
older.
I say go for it.
Yeah, he's getting older, and he's one of those Cali boys. He's from California, so he's from right outside Los Angeles. So he would be coming back home. So we'll see how it works. So the elephant in the room, and we touched on this a few months ago now when they fell apart against. Oh my goodness, when they lost in the playoffs against the Los Angeles Lakers. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Then Mike D'Antoni, left. What's going to happen with the Houston Rockets? Because there's been all kinds of rumors for the past couple of weeks. Right? Westbrook doesn't want to be there. Harden doesn't want to be there. The GM resigned, even though we know he was forced out. Um, what do you think is going to happen with Houston?
I mean, it just sounds like at this point it needs to be full on. Everything's gone. Like whoever doesn't want to just stick with the owner, just leave, just start over everything. Because it seems like you have to. It seems like your core's busted up. They want to leave.
Yeah,
Your, your management's gone. I mean, for the most
yeah.
part, it's
Everything's gone. They're gone.
took their shot. They threw their money into it. I mean, how long's Harden been there? How many people did they get with Harden
Oh,
that
they
Denver?
tried. Yeah,
Dude, they tried so hard.
yeah,
And kudos to Houston because they've been trying. I mean, we're going back to the T Mac Yao Ming era. Like they really do put effort in to bring these people in, and just whether it be coaching or player cooperation, like something, it just doesn't work out. And I mean, you hate to see it because you, it's nice when you see teams try because there's a lot of people that think their teams legitimately are just don't care,
right,
don't try.
right.
So, but you just didn't have it. You didn't have it. Now nobody wants to be there. And so
Hmm.
I don't see how you have any other option besides blowing it up. Everything. Everything's gone. See what you can get back. And I guess just do it like anytime a team loses their star player, like what Orlando's still doing, trying to find something to build on.
Right, right.
I don't think they have any other choice.
Yeah, it's what we called it. We said they were going to implode the minute then Tony quit. Like the night they got eliminated, he quit that night. It's like I'm done. There was nothing else left to do. I thought Jeff Van Gundy was going to take the job. For whatever reason, he didn't take the job, so it went to Steven Silas, son of the great Paul Silas. So you got a rookie coach. I'm not even sure who's running the team right now. I don't know who the president is. Um, it's weird. I don't know what they're doing. So that's probably why those guys are like, we want out. We don't know what direction this team is going in. So Harden has been linked to Philly. He's been linked to Brooklyn. There is even a rumor that he said he wouldn't mind playing for the Miami Heat. And when I saw that, I was like, absolutely not. It's not gonna happen. Hell to the nah, nah, nah. We're
It's
not
looking
doing
so
that. I was like, no. No, the fans in Brooklyn are getting excited. Like I don't know where Harden is going to go, but I will say this: the fans in New York are salivating because they want Westbrook and they want him back, and they are salivating at the opportunity. Like I think the Knicks are going to do everything they can to get Westbrook up there.
See, because if I was thinking Harden would be a better fit for that. I feel like
For the
he's
Knicks.
the guy that should end up on the Knicks.
Mm.
Brooklyn, if I was Brooklyn, I would stay as far away from either one of those guys as I could. I was like, let's just see where we're at with our two black
Right.
holes personalities at the city. Let's see
Right.
how fast those eat each other first.
Well,
But like Miami, I don't know. If I'm Miami, I pretty much
no,
stand. I don't think
no,
I take a risk on any kind of thing like that.
not happening.
Nothing.
Not happening. Not happening.
Where do you think Westbrook and Harden, like realistically, like where do you think would be a smart place for them to end up?
Maury, who the GM that got forced out of Houston, he's in Philly now. Um, so there's a connection there. That's why Philly was mentioned as a team for Harden. I think a pairing with Harden and Embiid would actually be pretty damn good. You know, because we know Embiid and Simmons is not working, is not gonna work. I don't think Doc Rivers is gonna put a lot of energy into it working. So I believe Harden and Embiid together would add another dynamic to the Eastern Conference, which would be great because you know Brooklyn's gonna be a player, you know Miami's gonna be a player, you still have Boston out there.
Mm-hmm.
So now if you add Philly is the team that actually lost a little clout this past year, and forgive me, Milwaukee, but Philly lost a little clout last year. So if you get Harden to Philly and pair him with Embiid, Harden will not be in Embiid's way because he knows how to play perimeter ball so well, which was Ben Simmons' downfall. So bring Simmons to Houston, send Harden to Philly, repackage them with some shooters around Embiid and Harden. Tell Harden, hey, we don't need you taking 30 shots a game. Maybe take 20. He'll still draw so much attention that his shooters will be over. Hey, call JJ Redick. Get his ass back up to Philly. Something. See if Kyle Korver, who is teetering on retiring, see if he'll come back to Philly because he played there years ago. Get some shooters around those guys. It'll be just like the Orlando Magic was years ago with Dwight Howard and Hedo Turkoglu being the playmaker, and then you had the shooters around those guys. Okay, it'll be a good fit if he goes to Philly. As far as Westbrook, I personally think Westbrook could go to the Orlando Magic and burn the city down in a good way. He needs to be the star of the show. New York is another city where he can do that at. It's just a matter of if he wants a big city feel or if he wants the small city feel. But I think the Knicks are really going to try to load up to make an offer for him.
I kind of hope he ends up. I mean, I don't. I like Westbrook, but I don't know if I necessarily want him. Like, I don't know if I want the Magic to go that. Like, if they're gonna make an effort on a star player, I don't know if I want it to be Westbrook because we still don't have shooting, and that just seems like such a big problem to me. And Westbrook isn't exactly known for his shot selection, so I'd like it better if I knew there was people that we could surround him with that could spread the floor more consistently for him to do what he does best.
Right.
Because I think we maximize what he brings to the table. So I think like it would kind of be a waste for the Magic to really shoot their shot to try it for him, and I
Hmm.
think it would be kind of foolish for him to come here because he's still trying to win, like realistically, and I don't think that gets us close enough to the top of the Eastern Conference with just him there. So I don't think it's a great match. But New York, I think, could be possibly better. But I don't really know exactly what kind of shooting they have. I just know the market would be better, I think, for what he's looking for. But I think Houston getting back Ben Simmons or someone of that caliber is probably the best thing they can hope to do.
Right. Right.
Because you're going to walk away with nothing, basically.
Right. No, they have options, so we'll see how it plays out. But those are some of the teams that are being linked to those guys. And hey, even if Harden leaves and Westbrook stays, that still might not be too bad for Houston. They're both great talents. They just can't play well together. They're great friends, but they just can't play well together. Stephen A. Smith reported that Westbrook doesn't want to play with Harden anymore, but Westbrook came out and said that was a lie. It might be a lie, but you don't play well together. That's the fact. So, and they're so great they should be able to figure it out, but for whatever reason they couldn't figure it out. So you have to move forward because there's too much money going into Houston right now for them to have a second round playoff
Yeah,
exit. So, yeah.
sure.
So, what other trade rumors have you seen out there?
Um, not any kind of like specific trade news yet that we haven't really discussed that I'm interested in. I mean, I see a different suggested AG rumor, Magic rumor every day because of I follow Magic people than other teams, but
Hmm.
nothing that seems realistic. Nothing that really stands out to me. I did want to ask you though. It's not exactly related to the free agency, but I wanted to ask your opinion on what you thought of Stan Van Gundy. I know you thought Jeff was going to come back, but Stan did come back, and he's coaching the Pelicans. Do you think that's a good move for them, like,
Yeah,
or a good spot for him to land and come back?
it is from an offensive standpoint, which they were a decent offensive team under Alvin Gentry. But I think with Stan Van Gundy, he's going to be even more creative, and he has a more of a defensive mindset than Alvin Gentry did. So I think Zion is really going to blossom under Stan Van Gundy, and then also those young guards, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, are going to benefit from a Stan Van Gundy as well. Here's the thing: everyone's going to have to learn how to shoot because we know Stan likes raining threes down, so they better be ready.
Who's going to be his? Who's their big man? Well, never mind. Never mind.
Well,
That one done.
Zion's their forward, but they have a
Oh,
center. They have a young center. I think his name is Jackson Hayes or something. He's athletic. He's long. He's like a younger Tyson Chandler. So he's actually pretty good. So it's a young team. It's a talented team. You still have JJ down there, so you have a little bit of shooting. Um, Riley doesn't agree with me on that shooting, but I think it was a good fit for Stan. Stan's not equipped for two things. He's not equipped to have full power, which he had in Detroit. You saw how that went. But he's also not equipped to coach a veteran laden team. He needs a young team, and that's what he has now. So kudos to him. And he has a great GM in Mr. Griffin. So he was LeBron's GM in Cleveland. So he's a great GM. So yeah, Stan, it was a good move, Stan. A real good move. I'm a fan. I can't wait to watch him play.
yeah, interesting young team.
Yeah, like I said, I thought I think Jeff turned that job down in Houston, and we'll find out more as it goes along. But I think Jeff turned that job down because it was too many whispers saying that it was his job to lose, and then they went with a rookie coach. Like, wait a minute, you were talking to Jeff Van Gundy, and now you went with a rookie coach. But he probably turned it down because they wouldn't give him full power, because that's the only way he would come back. So that's probably why he turned it down.
Um, One other thing before I forget, we haven't heard anything really about the Clippers yet. What do you think they
No,
try to?
not yet. I did hear an inkling that they were looking at Westbrook, so I'm not 100% sure. I I think the actual implosion of Houston has to be complete, and then we'll see other things happen. But I think people are waiting to see what's going to happen with Houston first. But
I guess
uh,
the biggest guys go, and then
right,
let.
what you have another California boy in Westbrook. He was linked to the Lakers for years. The Clippers now are, I think they're looking at him, and they may be willing to give up Paul George to get Westbrook to the Clippers. So we'll see. We will see. Now, it's going to be next week is really going to be very interesting. And here's another one that I've heard that I forgot to ask you about, so I'm happy I remember. Gordon Hayward wants out of Boston. Now, we talked about this a couple of months ago that there's no way all those guys could coexist. There's not enough balls for that. And we figured Hayward would be the one that would be disposable. But apparently he wants out now. So how do you feel about Gordon Hayward wanting to leave Boston?
Um, well, hopefully he feels comfortable enough to where, like, he can get close to his old style of play. Not saying
Hmm.
that maybe he wasn't playing that way, but I mean in terms of his role to the team. I mean, when he came to Boston from it was Utah, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he was a baller. Like he was a number one option.
Right, right.
And he hasn't got to do that in Boston. I mean, from injury and then these other guys coming in and it being their team, it's just a different dynamic than I think what he signed up for. So
Hmm.
I doubt there's any love lost between the team and the player, but I think he's probably getting comfortable enough with his body being back to normal to where he probably wants to get back to that. And so if he wants to go to a different team where he can do that, I think that makes sense. I would love to have him in Orlando, depending on what he looks like.
Good move. No, that
I
that would
mean,
be
and
that
what
would
he
be a good
does.
move. Yeah, he
He can
he can
help a
still.
lot of teams.
Mhm. He's a shooter. He's a big guy. He's a playmaker. He never got a chance, and it's horrible because of the injury. But he never got a chance to get going in Boston. But it was his injury that allowed the young guys that Boston had to blossom into the players that they are now. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they blossomed while Hayward was hurt. So it's like, damn, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I think his time there is over. Um, he can opt in and then ask for a sign and trade, which I think the Celtics would do because that way they would get pieces back. So I think that's the route to go. But yeah, it's been out there that he wants out, that he stated that he wants out. So we'll see. It just didn't work. It was a good signing for them years ago, 4 years ago. But remember, his first game was when he had that horrific injury. So he could never. It was kind of like when the Orlando Magic signed Grant Hill and he was already on crutches. It just
Yeah.
never worked. Um, But yeah, that's another one I wanted to ask you about. And I think we can close this today. I've been working a lot at the day job, so I missed some things. So I visited my mother. My mother said, "Did you hear who the Heat hired as their assistant coach?" I said, "No," and she said, "Karan Butler." I was like, "What?"
This morning, I think.
Yeah, she was like, "Yeah, they brought back Karan Butler," and it made me feel some type of way because I was a huge Karan Butler fan when he first arrived in Miami, and he got hurt. And then we drafted this rookie, Dwayne Wade. That Karan was supposed to be that guy. Then we drafted this rookie, and it was just like, holy shit. So Karan could never. They played one season together, and then we traded Karan away to bring Shaq to Miami, which was the right move to make. But we never saw his greatness, and he stayed injured for the duration of his career. He was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to win a championship with Dallas, ironically against the Heat in 2011. So when she said we brought him back, I'm like, well, we do bring back a lot of our players to be coaches. And then I didn't think about something, and someone tweeted this the other day. Giannis was Caron Butler's rook when Caron Butler was in Milwaukee, and they're like, that's why the Heat brought Caron Butler back. And then I went to think, and I'm like, holy shit, because it's little things like that you have to pay attention to. Yeah, Caron may be a great coach, but there may be that second motive as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Ocho Cinco said this week that Jimmy Butler told him that the Heat are working on a big trade. So we're gonna see what this is gonna be. I don't think they should trade for him this year. I think they should wait and let him walk there next year. But Ocho Cinco let it slip. We brought Caron Butler in this week. I don't know, bro. It's either gonna happen now or you're
I'm
gonna
guessing
hear it.
he lives down there.
Yeah, yeah. Ocho Cinco's in Miami. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either gonna happen now or you're gonna hear it all year, just like with LeBron, just like with Dwight Howard, Paul George to a certain extent. What do you think happens to Giannis?
Um, I think this season Golden State comes back and almost wins the conference,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Giannis goes there.
Second goes there. Got it. So here's the thing. Excuse me. Of all the trade rumors that we've talked about this year, none of them were linked to the Milwaukee Bucks. We know that they have to get better this year in order to keep this young man. What do you think the Bucks can do trade wise to bring some help up there?
Hmm. I thought Chris Paul would have been a good fit for them before the recent rumors.
Hmm.
Just strictly not talking about cash or money or how the trades work, but just strictly like kind of what Milwaukee needs.
Right.
And I think there's something else there, like something more like a reliable player outside Giannis. Something a distraction, someone who can do their own thing. And Chris Paul seemed after this, like I said, this season for Chris Paul, he go wherever he wants. It seems
Right.
like, and
Right.
it's his pick. He seems super valuable right now. Something like that. I mean, another. It's just it seems like a weaker Orlando Magic team that had Dwight Howard. That's all it does. And we weren't
Hmm.
enough to win a championship. So to
Hmm.
me, they're really missing something. They didn't have, to me, a Rashard Lewis who's making lights out threes, or have a Turkoglu who's able to handle the ball and raise up for his own three. They as consistently.
Right. Right.
It just seems like Orlando Magic light. And so in my eyes, looking at that firsthand, I'm like, you got to have another big thing. You had to have Jameer Nelson before he went down. He was in talks to be in the All-Star game that year because he was having such a good year before he got hurt. You got to have some other kind of secondary star there. I think if you really want to win a championship in Milwaukee after getting knocked out in the second round, they need not just another number two guy. I think they need another like really big star, something else if they want to win a championship. Because even if they get better, that's not a championship. You might make it another round. I still don't think you make it out of the East, even if you get a little bit better. If you're Milwaukee, I think
Yeah.
I think they took a huge step back this year. So
Yeah.
in my eyes, they need something major. And if they're not linked to anything, then I think it's just like a ticking time bomb there. You got one more year, lackluster. Giannis, hopefully not. He'll probably go ham just like he did this year, but you just hate to see it if that's the only thing they're going to be talking about. And if Milwaukee doesn't do anything major, that's all people are going to be talking about until he
Right.
leaves. Um,
Well,
it's sad to see, but if they don't get anybody, that's what's going to happen. Is
yeah.
what's going on with John Wall?
Nothing.
How much longer is he in Washington? Washington is just like nothing.
Right. He should be back this year. I don't know the exact
He's been
date.
practicing. He's been playing.
Something has happened in Cleveland. I'm trying to get the article up. Hold on.
Okay.
Some. Oh my goodness gracious. This is about Kevin Porter Jr. and something has gone down. But it looks like it's not a big deal, but it's out there. Give me 1 second. Let me just check. Our listeners will be able to watch what I'm doing here, but there is something going on in Cleveland, and I can't find it. Have you seen some of these new jerseys that's been going down?
Mhm. I
They've been
like
looking.
I like the so far Chicago one I saw. I like
Hmm.
Phoenix's,
Hmm.
and I will have to agree. I kind of like the Orlando pinstripe ones, but I'm biased. Pinstripes.
Of course you would. Of course you would, right? You would love that one. I like the Spurs one. There's the Spurs
Hardwood
one is actually what's up?
Spurs. I haven't seen the Spurs. I know there's
Oh, the
been one
Spurs was
I
sweet.
didn't like, but I can't remember whose it was.
Yeah, the Spurs one is okay. So here's something that's going on. Here's a statement from the Cleveland Cavaliers about Kevin Porter Jr. This is what they say. We are aware of the situation involving Kevin Porter Jr. and are in the process of gathering information. We have spoken with Kevin and will continue to address this privately with him as the related process evolves. So, something happened today and I missed it with Kevin Porter Jr. Have you seen anything about that?
No, not yet.
Evan Porter
I'm sure when I
Jr.
get off and check things here in a little while, it'll pop up.
Oh, here it is. There's actually a mugshot. I'll do this. One of our old friends, NBA Central, just tweeted out an hour ago that Kevin Porter Jr. was arrested on weapons charges. Okay. All
Hmm.
right, young man. I'm going to need you to do better. And that mugshot is absolutely glorious, by the way. The mugshot is glorious. Yeah, but the Spurs, and like I said, some of our fans can see it on the screen right now. The Spurs jersey is absolutely beautiful. their city editions. I've seen a Miami Heat one too as well. I was like, okay, I like that a little bit. I like that. So we got the draft coming up Wednesday. We already have one trade that'll be finalized on Monday. Do you think? Let's put a percentage on it. Do you think Aaron Gordon is going to be moved on Wednesday?
If the Magic have their way, yes.
I say it's about 70% that he's
I
going to be
saw
moved.
I saw a thing that said Minnesota was interested in him not that long ago,
Really? Really?
and
Okay.
apparently that interest might still be there,
Nice.
and so they
Nice.
might try to do something with them. Who knows?
So that would potentially, depending on who they give up, potentially give them Cat, D'Angelo Russell, and AG. That's not a bad young core. It's not bad. It's not bad. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Another quick funny rumor. I guess Devin Booker has some haters out there. They're like he wanted out of Phoenix, and they're like, no, that's not true. That's not true at all. I'm like, I don't know who started that one.
Seems like Phoenix is a good fit for him.
It is. It is. He just needs someone. He hasn't had a vet like Chris Paul there to show him the way. So again, we've been gushing over Chris Paul for months now. If he can get there and show Booker how to win, that'd be a great, great, great improvement upon a team like you said who should have made the playoffs. The only team that went undefeated in the bubble. And I want to circle back to one more thing before we leave. When we were talking about the Bucks and what they're missing, watching the Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Miami Heat. The Lakers didn't do anything spectacular, but they were able to beat a very hard-nosed Heat team because they played smarter basketball. They just played smart. Rondo was just doing his Rondo things. LeBron was doing his LeBron things. Even AD, who wasn't as efficient because he was hurt, they were playing very smart basketball. And that's what Milwaukee's missing. They don't play smart. It starts with the head coach and then it trickles down to the players. But their basketball IQ isn't where it needs to be, and that's why they're losing. They're missing that part. That's a
They would
huge underrated
Chris
part. Oh, go ahead.
they would benefit hugely from Chris Paul.
Hmm.
Maybe well, it's hard to see or think of where Rondo would want to go. Like, does he even still want to play?
I mean, he can
Like,
retire. Shit, you don't give
I
a
know,
fuck.
yeah, and you just
Right,
won another championship.
right,
So, like, what does he care? I was gonna
yeah.
say, he Milwaukee could snag him, but
I think that Rondo's future I think Rondo's future is going to be as a head coach. I'm not a head coach, forgive me, but I think he's going to be coach. I think he's going to be like an assistant coach. He may be a head coach down the road, but I can see him in that role as being a head coach. Um, but he could help Milwaukee, not in great spurts, but he could help Milwaukee. But I think their basketball IQ is what's lacking up there. I really do, because just dude, the Heat steamrolled them. And this was even before Giannis got hurt. They were being steamrolled by Miami. Outside of three people, no one saw that happen. Let's be real. No one saw that. They got steamrolled. And I believe even if they would have played Boston, I believe Boston would have steamrolled them. So it's just like, okay, their IQ is a little lacking. So we'll
I
see.
can agree with that.
Yeah. So that's just some good insight. So we'll see how next week goes with the draft and see what trades are made. More than likely, we'll be back next week. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Hardwood Nation's Flagrant 2 podcast. It felt good being back. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.